are live. Welcome to Divine Farmer Health Podcast. And this is Thursday, September 26th. I'm Chris McKee, certified nutritionist, and I'm delighted to be here with you guys this evening. And I would love to hear where you're coming in from, where you're watching us from. I'd love to see, we have people from all over the world, so this is really fun to be able to see this. And tonight's topic is about something you guys have been asking me about. Now, I want you to remember that this is week 4 that we have been talking about weight loss. And so we have actually had 3 weeks of podcasts on all the things that can impact weight loss and why you would not lose weight. So if you haven't caught those, I'm not sure if they're on our Facebook page, or if you can go to YouTube. Maybe one of my admin here can let me know where we might be, you guys might be able to find them to go back and listen, because there's so many things you guys involved in why people struggle to lose weight. Welcome from Indiana. Welcome from Arizona. Tell me where you're calling in from, you guys. But I want you guys to understand that oftentimes things just like getting a food intolerance out of the diet makes a huge difference. I think I shared last week, I have a dear friend, I've been friends for 40 years, and she has rheumatoid arthritis. And over the years, she's gained a lot of weight. And so we worked with her. We started working with her about mid-July, and she's down 20 pounds, which is great. I mean, it's not quick weight loss, which is okay, but it's great. And it really came down to, she said, I believe it came down to taking out gluten and taking out dairy, because she's tried to lose weight before. So for her, that's working. So I just want you guys to be aware, there's so many things that can impact whether you lose weight or not. Welcome. Okay, a lot of you guys, New York City, California, Canada, California, Texas, Brooklyn, New York, Atlanta, Georgia. There's Sydney, Australia. I love it. Ohio, Long Beach, the Philippines. Welcome. Indonesia. Oh my goodness. Northern Virginia, Santa Cruz, beautiful place. Western Colorado, I love it. St. Louis, Missouri, Jamaica in the West Indies, welcome. Syracuse, New York, Toronto, Long Beach. Good night. I'm from Colombia. Is it really late there in Colombia? Oh my gosh, this is so fun to see where you guys are from. This is amazing. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the podcast. So I'm going to dive into the topic of the GL P1 agonist, which you guys have heard the name Ozempic, I'm sure. And we had a lot of questions over the last 3 weeks I was talking about weight loss. And some 2 or 3 people every week would say, what about Ozempic? What about Ozempic? Okay, so I feel like, we need to really jump into this, okay? Felstead Clinic says wheat does it for us. Yeah, wheat is gluten, and gluten's in a lot of things, right? But it's whatever's made with flour. So think about white flour is in a lot of things, and it's tortillas and muffins and bagels and biscuits and all the things we love, right? So but go back and listen, and Hez or Nani, I don't know if you can type in the chat where they might be able to find the last 3 weeks podcasts, because I did 3 weeks of why you not maybe gaining weight, why you might not be lose weight, why you start to lose weight, and then you just get stuck and you can't keep losing weight. So make sure, and we'll see if we can't find out where those are at, so you guys go back and watch them. But Ozempic is, this is big. It's starting to become almost like crazy, the amount of information, the amount of people talking about these GLP-1 agonists. And so I thought I'd really help educate you guys, okay? So the original reason why this drug was created for was type 2 diabetics over in Denmark. This company that's created this is over in Denmark, and it was to be used with type 2 diabetics. And that we're having a really hard time losing weight, which type 2 diabetics do, because they have a lot of insulin resistance going on. And insulin is like miracle grow for our fat cells. And, the body keeps pushing out insulin, and then, the fat just comes on and on and on. So that's how they were using it. And then, of course, they saw a gold mine, right? And you have to understand that these pharmaceutical companies are out to make money, right? That's their primary purpose is for their stockholders. We need to make money. So they were looking at the United States, which is way worse than Europe as far as obesity. And they're looking at the United States and they're going, wow, 73% of the US population is either overweight or obese. What a market, right? What a market. So, and globally,
Di
I
ba't
mean, if you,
mabuti natin kay Ate Ella, papakita ko sa'yo. Di ba yung
uh-oh,
charger niya, Tecno yun.
Ronnie, you need to
Pagka
mute.
mali yung charger mo, ba nasabog na lang yung cellphone ni Uno.
There we go. Okay. Um, so globally, we have 462 million people with type 2 diabetes. So we have a health crisis, right? I mean, diabetes is a health crisis. And so when you look at this drug and you go, okay, if somebody has diabetes, is it an appropriate drug? If we get the weight off, then will the blood sugars come down and will it help them? So the original dosage that they were using in Denmark, the original drug they were using is way less than what they're using now. So that's really something to keep in mind. Um, and they were working with diabetics because obviously a diabetic has a higher risk for heart disease, higher risk for kidney disease, higher risk for eye disease, higher risk for neuropathy and nerve damage and all that kind of stuff, right? It's a scary place to be. So I could see where, using that drug at the dosage they were using in Denmark could be very beneficial for some folks. But we need to really look at what's going on right now. So some of the drug names are Trulicity, Wegovy, Mounjaro, Byetta, and Ozempic. Okay, so those are the top GLP-1 agonists right now that we're seeing in the market. So they were marketed for type 2 diabetes originally, but now they're being marketed as a obesity drug. So they've kind of flipped the switch, right? I mean, they flipped the switch because they want to be able to go to the FDA and be able to get approval for it as an obesity drug, and that the practitioners could market it in their businesses and their practices as an obesity drug. So yeah, they got it passed. I mean, it's got passed. So what they're using though, what they're now using if you go to your doctor and your insurance will cover it, and we'll talk about the cost here, it's going to be 4 to 5 times stronger than what they were using in Denmark originally. So this leads to a lot of problems. So I want to read you the problems it leads to, and then I want to talk about whether or not there's another way to do this, right? But where it wouldn't be such a problem. So you may know somebody who's taken this, right? And I do know somebody in our church who's taking it. And I did not know he was doing it, but he was losing weight, and he knows I'm a nutritionist. And he said, I'm losing weight. And I said, well, that's great, Todd. How are you losing weight? He said, I'm just not eating. Oh, great. You're just not eating. And so about 5 or 6 weeks into this, you could see his muscle. He was just losing muscle like crazy. And he even said to me, I need to start working out because I'm losing muscle. Well, yeah, if you don't eat, he was eating once a day. So it turns out he was on Ozempic, right? And so that's one of the things that takes away your appetite. But here's the thing. What they're finding is that unfortunately, some of these people are going into what's called cachexia, which is what you see with cancer patients with chemo. They just waste away. And so what we're seeing is this can lead to eating disorders. We know anorexics, they look in the mirror and they think they're fat, and so they don't eat. And so when people start losing so much weight, and then they get too thin, extremely unhealthy, right? Extremely unhealthy. So what else does this drug do? This drug, the way it works is that it slows down the emptying of your stomach. And so it makes you feel fuller longer, and it makes you feel like you're not hungry. And it actually slows down the peristaltic motion of the bowel. So the movement from the stomach to the bowel. And you guys, I could go into a whole hour telling you why you want your stomach and your bowel working. But we don't want food sitting in our stomach for longer than maybe if you had a heavy meal, it might be 3 hours. Your food should be in and out of your stomach. You eat a normal meal or something, and 2 to 3 hours later, it should be in and out of your stomach. There is huge things happening in your stomach, right? You have the actual breaking apart of protein, and the amino acids that make up protein they're unchained in the stomach. They're taken apart in the stomach, so you can utilize your protein. You make something called intrinsic factor in the stomach, which binds to vitamin B12, which is absolutely essential for making vitamin B12 lower down in your intestines. Your stomach starts to break apart minerals in your stomach. So your minerals starting to break apart the minerals so you can utilize them for all the things that minerals do, which is a massive amount of things in the body, right? So there's so many things that the stomach does that you don't want it sitting in there and not digesting the food. That's just, to me, that's just ludicrous. But what's happening now is the scary part is people are developing what we call gastroparesis. Gastroparesis is a paralyzation of the stomach, where it's literally paralyzed and it doesn't work at all. And I had somebody on here on our podcast one time ask me about gastroparesis. It's terrible. So what we're seeing with these people that are on these drugs for 2 or 3 months is sometimes when they go off of them, the gastroparesis doesn't go away. It's a permanent thing. That is very, very scary. And then you talk about lower down, right? And once it leaves the stomach and going lower down, your peristaltic motion of your bowel is like a worm-like motion. You have 22 feet of small intestine. There's a lot going on down there. The ability for your pancreas produces enzymes, so you can break down your proteins more, your fats more. Your gallbladder puts your bile in there, so you can break down fats. Your pancreas puts in baking soda, basically, so it turns from acid to alkaline. There's so much going on in the small intestine as it travels down, so you can absorb it through the intestinal wall. So you have food getting into your bloodstream, so it gets to your cell. So if that peristaltic motion of the bowel slows way down, we start to see a lot of food intolerances, food sitting in there too long. You start to get gas, bloating, indigestion, constipation. So now what we're starting to see with these drugs is people get intestinal blockages, actually intestinal blockages. And so they have to go in and literally do surgery and open them up and get that removed. And so we don't want that, right? So these are some of the things that are happening with this drug. It's affecting your digestion in a huge, huge way. So the way it works, again, is it basically takes your appetite away, makes you feel like you don't want to eat as much. So what they're saying is it's a long-term drug. This is not something that you take because here's what's happening. People go off of it, they gain all the way back. One of the things I'm going to talk about is if you're working with a practitioner that is maybe a functional medicine doctor or somebody who's a naturopathic, we'll talk about what they're doing because I want you to really understand what they're doing in their field, because there is a way to use this safely, okay? But one study of over 25,000 people found a 3.5 times increase of intestinal blockage. That's a huge amount. So this is really kind of scary to me. Here's some more things I want to read you guys. The most comprehensive study on the GLP-1 drugs was done on 16 million patient records. So this is a big one, right? And they looked at the side effects that required hospitalization. And so compared to any other weight loss program, okay, so this is what they were comparing it to. 9 times greater risk of pancreatitis, that's inflammation of your pancreas. Anything with an itis on the end is inflammation. 4.2 times greater risk of bowel obstruction, just talked about that. 3.67 times greater risk of gastroparesis. 1.48 times greater risk of biliary disease. Okay, so that would be like gallstones, okay? Additional risk involved muscle mass, and this is something I really want to spend some time on. 50% of the weight loss could be attributed to muscle loss. Do you guys realize your muscle is your engine of your body? Your muscle is metabolically what makes you burn calories. Often we know as we age, we want to maintain muscle. That's a leading cause of death when people start to get frail, right? So when you're losing 50% of the weight is muscle, then what happens when the people go off the drug, guess what? They're going to gain weight back, but it's going to be all fat. It's not going to be muscle unless they're working out, which very few people are. So this is a huge problem with this drug, is that you're losing a lot of muscle mass. And like my friend at church just doesn't eating. Well, of course you're going to lose muscle if you're not eating. So, these are some of the really high risk parts of these drugs that I wanted you guys to be aware of. And I want you to be aware of the connection between the FDA and the pharmaceutical companies. Now, if you ever have a chance, and we sent it out in our email, Jimmy sent it out, and I just sent it out Wednesday, the interview that Tucker Carlson did with Casey and Callie Means. If you have a chance, it's over. I think Tucker Carlson has it on YouTube. I think it's still on YouTube. I can't believe YouTube left it up there. It is an eye opener, you guys. Casey Means basically has left medicine because of what she's seen. And so it is a big, big deal. If you can watch that, it's long. I kind of chunked it out. I'd listen for half an hour and come back and listen for half an hour. It's mind blowing. Okay. So here's the deal with this drug. They see it as a pharmaceutical gold mine. And JP Morgan has an annual healthcare conference every year, and they just had it in January of this year. And they were highlighting investing in the GLP-1 drugs. They show a graph that by 2030, this drug is going to be a $50 billion drug by 2030. So the head of the FDA was a keynote speaker for that conference. What's the FDA doing speaking at an investment conference, you guys? The FDA was the head of the FDA was the keynote speaker, talking to the investors about how lucrative this market's going to be. You think he might be investing in this? So the FDA is not here for your protection. I will tell you that. And I don't, you guys in other countries, I don't know what it's like in Australia, or I don't know what it's like in other countries that you guys are like, but obviously, when you listen to that Casey and Callie Means, you really get it. You get that interview, you really get it. So what they're saying basically is they want people on this for long term. So what is long term? That you're looking at over $1,000 a month. If your insurance covers it, which you usually have to go through some other things before your insurance will cover it, because they want you to try other things because it's such an expensive drug. It runs about $1,000 to $1,200 a month to be on one of these drugs, and they want you on it for life. But here's the thing: in Denmark, the company Novo Nordisk, which is the one that created this, they only allow you to use it for type 2 diabetics, and they make you try other things first. And the cost there is $130 a month, $130 a month. So you don't think they're coming over here to make money, right? Yes, they are, of course. So now the scary part to me is that they're trying to get this passed so that Medicare would cover it. There's something called the Medicare Modernization Act of 2003, and it prevents them from paying for weight loss drugs. So now they're lobbying, and guess who's lobbying? Novo Nordisk is lobbying, the company who makes this drug is lobbying to have this covered by Medicare. And that would include then Medicaid. Anybody on Medicaid would be covered. Oh my gosh, the amount of money they're projecting that if we decide to do this, is 3.1 to 6 billion annually that our government will be paying out for people on Medicare or Medicaid to take this drug, in the billions. And so you can see where this is going, right? This is not about your health. This is just about the pharmaceutical companies making a lot of money, and apparently FDA is in bed with them. So let's talk about, I love it. Somebody says we need Kinney in the White House. Yeah. I listened to an interview him today. He said he would put Casey and Callie Means in charge of like the part of the health in the United States, which is pretty cool. So let's talk about who's using it, and they're doing it responsibly, and they're having good results, and they're making their patients accountable. I want you guys to be aware of this because it is out there. If you search it out, I am so sympathetic to people. I have clients that are carrying around 200 pounds extra. I mean, more 200 pounds on their body they should not be carrying around. And obviously they have major health challenges with that, right? And diet and exercise is important, but some of these people have such a broken metabolism that they really could use a kickstart. And this, maybe if it's done correctly, could be that kickstart. So let's talk about who is using this the right way. So Like I said, naturopathic doctors, functional medicine doctors, some of the MDs that are more naturally doing integrative medicine, this is how they're doing it. They're doing a low dose. They're using a compounded pharmacy. So they give you a prescription, you go to the compounded pharmacy, they make up the drug in a really low dose. Then they're requiring their patients to keep a diet diary of what they're eating. They require their patients to be doing strength training 3 times a week. They have to be doing some strength training. They can't just walk or anything. They need to do some weights. They're making them do that. If they go through their drug faster than the prescription, they never prescribe it for them again because that person is taking too much. They require them to come in once a month and get body fat tested, lean body mass tested, weighted and weight and everything. They have to do their follow-up appointments. If they don't do their follow-up appointments, they do not get prescribed the drug. That is a responsible way for using this at lower doses. And those people are having very good results. And they're telling their patients, this is not a lifetime drug. I am not keeping you on this for a lifetime. I'm putting you on here so that we can jumpstart you on getting off significant weight. Maybe they need to lose 100 pounds. So that is a responsible way. And there are people out there doing it. So if you're one of those people that feels like, you're just struggling with maybe 100 pounds, 150 extra pounds, or maybe your blood sugars are just out of control and you really, really need to get the weight off. Find a practitioner that is doing it this way. Now, I'm going to type in here, last week we talked about this. Where do I find a functional medicine doctor? Okay, so I'm typing it in here. The Institute for Functional Medicine, ifm.org. And IFM, Institute for Functional Medicine.org, you can go in there and you can type your zip code in there and they will tell you people in your area. So even though I live very rurally, I live outside of San Angelo, Texas, which is about 100,000 people. But I typed my zip code in and there was somebody in San Angelo. There was also somebody in Abilene, which would be a drive, but it would be worth it if that was somebody you wanted to work with. It was a functional medicine doctor, okay? I would highly recommend if you want to take this drug, you work with that type of practitioner, that you don't get on this high dose that's being prescribed by your medical doctors. To me, it's the creed of the medical doctor is first do no harm. This is harming people. And it's all about the money, you guys, all about the money. So I just wanted to give you an overview of what some of these studies are showing, especially with the stomach and the gut, and then the weight, the muscle loss off the body. This can be very detrimental to your health. We want to keep your muscle mass on your body. I talk about this almost every week about how someone my age who's 73, we have to work so hard to just maintain our muscle because we're losing muscle every year. And so strength training for me is not even like, it's not optional. There's no way. If I want to stay strong and healthy and balanced and be able to function, I need to have muscle. So losing 50% of your muscle on your weight, like if you lost 50 pounds and 25 of it was muscle, horrible. So I wanted to give you guys that overview. I'm going to go in and start looking at your questions because I see a lot of chatter going on in here, which is great. I love it. So Jeff says, I've been on Ozempic, lost no weight, 7 months. Okay, Jeff. Well, apparently that's not working for you. I have twin friends, 59 and now losing their eyesight from the weight loss drug. Yes, that's another side effect is eyesight. That's scary. What happens if I don't have a gallbladder? And you take this drug, you're going to have a problem with digesting fat, right? If you don't have a gallbladder, you have a problem digesting fat. So here's some things you can do if you don't have a gallbladder. A lot of people don't have gallbladders. And so your liver's still going to dump bile into your small intestine when you eat some fat. It's going to automatically dump it in there, except you don't have your little storage dude, which is your gallbladder, who gradually puts the bile into the small intestine when it senses fat coming down. So the liver just kind of dumps it in. So sometimes people with no gallbladder, when they eat fatty food, they get diarrhea really quickly. So some things you can do, one of them is lecithin. Lecithin is a fat emulsifier, and it's actually very healthy for your heart and for your brain. And lecithin is in eggs. Lecithin is what makes the egg actually digest its own cholesterol, right? So it's actually really good. You can take lecithin with your meals, and it will help emulsify that fat so that when it gets down to the small intestine, you don't need so much bile being produced. So that would be my recommendation for those of you who don't have a gallbladder. Okay. Felsted Clinic. This is so good, folks. Okay, great. I'm glad you're enjoying this. Love your work from Surf Coast, Victoria, Australia. Christina, love it. Welcome. My grandma is on Ozempic for diabetes. Okay, so it'd be really interesting, Jesse, to know how much she's taking and how she's doing. Okay. Hi, Sherry. I can see that in the way it's marketed in commercials. Yeah, it's really being pushed on us. I watched that, but it needs to be watched with critical thinking. Are you talking about the Casey and Callie Means? Casey Means can talk a million miles an hour. So I did it in chunks. Like I watched it and then 30 minutes, and then I came back and watched 30 minutes and came back and watched 30 minutes. There was so much information that she was putting out there. And then so Phil said, yeah, same in the UK. It's shocking. So Maria Gurzo, I believe it is 73, said so it's okay for a kickstart. I think it's okay for a kickstart if you're working with a responsible physician, a functional medicine doctor, a naturopathic doctor, somebody who is low dosing it. Now, you may even be able to ask your doc can you cut that prescription in half? Can I take half of what you're recommending and see how I do? You maybe, I don't know. I don't even know if the pharmaceutical drugs make it like that, but the compounding pharmacies, they can make it any way they want, right? They know the molecular structure of it. They know how to make it. Compounding pharmacies make drugs all the time. So that's why these docs that are doing it responsibly are using very low dose. So G Bub says, can you include comments on oral GP1 like Ribelsu? I have not actually done any research on that. So here's the deal, you guys. We make GLP-1 in our gut. Most people don't even realize that. We make it in our gut. And I think we talked about this last week and the week before and the week before on weight loss. If you have a bad gut, if you have a leaky gut, if you have gut dysbiosis, if you have irritable bowel, if you have diarrhea, constipation, bloating, gas, food baby after you eat, just you blow up, you have dysbiosis in your gut. And so you're not making your GLP-1 like you should. When you have a healthy gut, you make GLP-1. It's made by your body. So I don't know if the oral is as effective, or I don't know, maybe how long have you been on it, or have you been on it? I'd like to hear your experience. I have not done any research on the oral, okay? But I just want to remind you guys, a lot of times people don't lose weight because their gut's so messed up. And if somebody's carrying around 100 extra pounds and they're diabetic, yes, their gut's going to be messed up. So starting with the gut is like number one place for me when I have people with weight loss resistance, is starting in the gut. Okay, Phil said, I'll have to catch this another time. It's late in the UK. Good night. It is late in the UK. Susie Q, 85, whatever your habits are, it's all mental. Susie Q, I will say, and you say you really have to have mental strength to stop eating. Is that what you're saying, to stop eating? So there's some factors in why we have a hard time maybe portion size is too big. Maybe we start eating and we can't stop eating. There is factors that cause you to do that. And I feel like some of those we're malnourished, right? We're malnourished. Our bodies does not have the vitamins and the minerals and the phytonutrients and things that we need. And so your body is like, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me. I am wanting these things. I need these things for my body to survive. And so we overeat. The other thing is ultra processed food. Ultra processed food has chemicals in it that they put in there on purpose so that you cannot eat just one, or you crave it, or you go back for more, and you go back for more, and you go back for more, right? That's another reason. Sometimes it is the neurotransmitters in the brain. Some people eat because they're trying to feed their brain. And that what you're talking about, whatever your habits are, it's all mental. Well, then when it comes down to mental, sometimes it's because somebody's trying to feed the brain and they have neurotransmitters. When you look at genetics, you can see this, right? Somebody does not make, for instance, GABA very well, which is a very calming neurotransmitter. And so they're eating a lot of carbohydrates to try to push more into the brain, sugar into the brain. So remember, your brain is about 80%, or I think it's about 60% fat. It runs a lot on sugar, but your brain needs protein, you guys, to make neurotransmitters. So what I find when people are having cravings, people can't slow their or put their portion size down. What we need to do is we need to, if they can, go cold turkey on the processed carbohydrates. So I'm talking about the breads and the biscuits and the English muffins and the pretzels and the chips and all kind of stuff, right? We have to get the brain fed with protein. So we amp up the protein to give the brain the tools it needs to make the neurotransmitters. The protein will satiate you and will make the cravings come down. Yes, you have to go through withdrawals, just like coming off of cocaine or coming off of coffee or anything like that, right? I mean, you're going to go through withdrawals, but it doesn't take long, 3 or 4 days. If you feed the brain enough protein, and the carbs come from things like sweet potatoes, winter squash, broccoli, things like that. The mental struggle a lot of times is because our body's craving things because we're not nourished. We need more vitamins and minerals, phytonutrients in the body. I think everybody is depleted. Personally, everybody's depleted with minerals. Minerals, I think, are the biggest thing we're depleted from. But neurotransmitters in the brain, huge. You need protein to make them. So yeah, it's a battle. Do I like berberine? I love berberine. Berberine, actually, in a clinical trial up against metformin, berberine outperformed metformin. So yeah, I like berberine. What is appropriate low dosage? I don't have those numbers for you tonight. I could probably get those to you in the coming weeks, but it's definitely lower than what they're using in the pharmaceutical. So you can look up the pharmaceutical level. So it needs to be a good half of what they're using. Robin Fraser says, if you've had thyroid cancer, therefore I should not take Ozempic or Wegovy, right? I wouldn't. Personally, I wouldn't. If I had any kind of cancer, I wouldn't. And so obviously you're wanting to take it to lose weight, and thyroid function plays a big role. And so, not knowing your history or, what thyroid medication you're on, it takes a while to balance it out. Hope you're working with a good endocrinologist. Glass Slipper says, I'm diabetic and can't gain weight. Okay, so that actually can happen. We see people who can't gain weight. So Glass Slipper, here's where I would start. I would start in making sure that you're taking some digestive enzymes with every single thing you eat, everything you put in your mouth. You need to be able to break that food down. Usually when someone can't gain weight, unless it's thyroid function, right? It could be hyperthyroid. I don't know if you've been checked out or not, but it's because they're not digesting their food properly, and the food's just not getting absorbed through the intestinal wall and into the cell where it needs to start. So the first thing I would do is make sure that you're on a digestive enzyme with everything you're eating. So you're breaking your food down, protein, carbs, and fat. Use a digestive enzyme that has all three of those digestive enzymes in it for protein, carbs, and fat. And making sure you're breaking your food down and utilizing the food that you're eating. And then you want to get your carbohydrates up, but you want to get them up from plants. You don't want to go out and start eating, lots of bread or lots of muffins or things like that. You don't want to do that. But you want to get your carbohydrates up. You can do some fruit. The low fruit things like berries are great, right? Kiwi, although you're in Australia, kiwi is a low sugar fruit. So you want to make sure you've got plenty of carbohydrates in your diet, and making sure you're digesting. That's really, really huge. Susie Q says, just take lactobacillus delayed release. It'll kill all the bacteria in your gut. Not necessarily. I'll disagree with you, Susie Q. If people have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which has come up from the large intestine into the small intestine, that's a big job to get that healed. If people have leaky gut, a lot of times it's caused by food intolerances. So you got to get those food intolerances out of the diet. Otherwise, it's just going to keep wreaking havoc on the gut. There's a lot involved in that. Olive 03, I'm on a very low dose Ozempic for diabetes, has helped, but I didn't like the side effects, so I'm taking it once every other week instead. So I'd like to know, Olive, it has helped, and tell me in what way. Has it helped with your blood sugar? Have you lost weight? I'd like to hear how you're doing. I answered that. Sugar addiction. Yeah, sugar addiction is a real thing, you guys. I mean, you can become addicted to sugar just like you can to cocaine or, any kind of drug, right? Or alcohol or anything. It's the same receptor in the brain, the same receptor in the brain. So yeah, sugar, if somebody is addicted to sugar, it's got to be cold turkey. It's not fun, but I've taken a lot of people off of sugar, and they, a week later, they're like, I don't crave it. I'm not craving it. CMOS. Okay, we talked about CMOS last week, Sylvia. I think it was last week. I did do some research on CMOS, and it seems to be pretty good. A lot of the research clinical trials seem to be pretty good. I think the reason why people are feeling so good on CMOS is because it's full of minerals, and I think people are super deficient in minerals. I also think because it's full of iodine, and we are very low in iodine, especially in this country, and you want to support the thyroid gland. That's what your thyroid gland uses to make thyroid hormone and selenium. So I think CMOS is fine. Yeah. Violet Zubik, I have just had my gallbladder out last week, so thank you for the info on lecithin. I have been told to take lactulose to clear up any obstruction in my gut. How long do I take this for my bowels? I don't know. I'm not a medical doctor. I cannot tell you how long to take that. Butterfly says fatty acids, avocado. Fatty acids are awesome. Absolutely. Avocado, loaded with good fat, right? Style says, thank you for some solid solution. You're welcome. Carnivore diet. Carnivore diet works for some folks for getting off sugar, for sure. I would rather prefer maybe going keto versus all the way to carnivore. I don't even take people as far as keto. I just take them more paleo, I would say. But definitely the carbs are definitely plant, and we get them off of sugar just using carbs from plants. Anne Mahoney, I'm completely addicted to Diet Coke. I think that's a big part of my sugar cravings. Yeah. Yeah. So it's super sugary, right? It's super sweet, and your brain, it's so used to that super sweet. That's what it wants. It wants a super sweet, right? I had a friend, my best friend, she's still my best friend. Many, many years ago, she was addicted to Diet Coke. We'd go camping together, and I'd see her get up in the middle of the night and drink a Coke. That's how bad she was. She's now been Diet Coke free, I think, for about 20 years. And she even tells me, I can't believe how addicted I was. But it's something you definitely want to get off, especially with the aspartame and the stuff like that. Kylene says, what are good whole food proteins? Are you talking about other than an animal protein? Is that what you're talking about? I'm not sure what you're talking about. I just had tonight for dinner, what I made was roasted tofu. I don't know if you guys have ever done that. I marinated it, toasted it, and I roasted it in the oven, and then I made a stir fry and threw it in. I do eat tofu, but I always eat non-GMO organic tofu. And I don't eat a lot of it. I probably only eat it once a month. But tofu is a great food. There's also in that family, obviously in the soy family, you have to be careful not to overdo it. But there's tempeh. You can buy tempeh, and you can throw that into stir fries and things like that. So what I would do, Kayleen, I think it was probably maybe your name. I would go online and just type in, if you want plant-based protein, is that what you're looking for? Just type it in. Of course, your beans and things are loaded with protein, right? Jamiko, I'm on tirzepatide. Can't pronounce that. Panda. Oh, Panda. Had so many health benefits, including losing 40 pounds already. Okay, so that drug, is that a GLP-1 antagonist? I don't think it is. Mary Gorzo, I started berberine per your suggestion, and my A1C went down from 6.5 to 6.2 in my recent labs. All right, I love it. Way to go. Please tell us exactly what proteins, carbs, and fat. Okay, well, that would be a whole podcast. What are proteins, carbs, and fat? That's a whole podcast. Poppy and Zevia are best natural sodas. Yeah, there's a lot of stevia sodas out there now. And so that's a good option for people who want soda. So MG Alex Ford, I think. I'm arthritic since 2014, can't lose weight and have gut problems. So that's why you can't lose weight because you have gut problems, and that probably accelerates and inflames your arthritis. You know, you guys, we have I'm going to type it in here. Okay, if you go over to our website, divinefarmerhealth.com, and look under programs, we have a whole gut program. We have a 28-day gut reset. Because last week you guys asked me about how do you heal leaky gut, right? That program walks you through everything, tells you what supplements to take. We have a recipe book, we have foods, we have meals, we have everything, videos from me and Jimmy. If you want to really heal your gut, do that 28-day program because you're going to get so much good information. Kelly, what brand of berberine is good? Actually, Kelly, I like Pure Encapsulations is the company I really like. You can get it on Amazon. Merle, good evening. I have been on oral hypoglycemic for 12 years. Last year, I reduced my white rice by half. I lost 15 pounds after 6 months, and my A1C gradually went down from 5.4 to 4.8. Then I got IBS. Bummer. Advocated for myself and started probiotic. No flare-ups till now. Regained 4 pounds. Still working on it. Yeah, well, that's amazing, right? Reduce your white rice, and then the weight came out. Little simple things. Amazing. Oh, Anne said your thyroid cancer, my levels are perfect. Function isn't always impacted by a tumor. That's good. That's good. Oh, okay. So terzipatide, I can't pronounce it. It's Majerno, which is a GLP-1. So you've had a good experience with it. So that's good. See, there are going to some people who are going to have a good experience with it. You've lost 40 pounds, and I hope you're working out. I hope you're doing some strength training. John says, I am insulin resistant. Should I take berberine and cut the outbreak? And pasta. Yeah. So yeah, berberine's great. And yeah, you got to cut out the simple carbs. I mean, the white flour carbs. There's no way around it, you guys. Any suggestions for dryness from Sjorgen's? I do not. Sjorgen's is a real bummer. Esophagus cannot tolerate most foods. Oh, that's not good. I've not had a thyroid for 10 years, can't lose weight and have it's any advice. Well, again, see, so you would be a person who this may be a good fit for, right? You can't lose weight, you've had no thyroid, maybe they don't have your thyroid meds quite right. It's challenging sometimes when you lose your thyroid and try to get everything regulated. Thyroid plays a role in so many things. So maybe you're a candidate for something like this, right? Where it would jumpstart you, get your metabolic system moving. Your metabolic function is probably just not up to par, right? And there's so many things that impact metabolic function, you guys. Jonathan says, how about kombucha? Kombucha is great as long as you read the label, okay? Because sometimes the bottles say 2 servings on them, and you drink the whole thing, right? Look at the carbohydrate content on the kombucha because kombucha does have sugar in it, right? But it's a prebiotic, I mean, it's a fermented food, so it's good for you. Okay, a couple more questions and then I'm going to have to go, you guys. Betty, first time hearing you, please advise natural remedies for pre-diabetic people, A1C 6. So, Betty, I will tell you, if I put the link right above your chat there, I put the link to our website. We have a 28-day metabolic reset over there, and it's excellent for someone like yourself because you're going to know which foods to eat and which foods to avoid. You're going to get advice on supplements that can be helpful, right? There's recipes. I give you guys my recipes in a recipe book. So first time hearing me for natural remedies, I would say the 28-day metabolic reset would be great for you. And it's over at divinefarmerhealth.com. And what's good for IBS, do a food intolerance test if you can get with a healthcare practitioner that does that. You want to see what foods would be, that would be the first thing. Got to remove the offending food. What about buckwheat flour? Yeah, it's cool. It doesn't have any gluten in it. I have Hashimoto's, so my thyroid no longer works. I take Synthroid. My insulin resistance was so bad. The only way I could lose weight was going on the GLP and medication. So there again, there is someone who maybe they're a candidate for this. Just make sure you're working with a good practitioner who's paying attention and watching your muscle loss. Okay. What about numbness and tingling in your legs? Well, I would do either chiropractic or acupuncture. Make sure you got your B vitamins up, all your B12. If you're on an antacid, you're not using your B12, so that really affects your nerves. Do not have a gallbladder. Yeah, we were just talking about that, lecithin. And then we have somebody else with some numbness in their hands. So that's nerves, right? So I always tell people who have nerve issues, you need to get with a chiropractor and or a acupuncturist. Both would be great, right? You need to open up that meridians. You need to get things flowing with the acupuncture. You know, the chiropractor is going to make sure your spine is in alignment because all your nerves come out of your spine. So you definitely want to be working with those types of health practitioners. Your B vitamins have everything to do with your nerve system. And a lot of people are low in B vitamins, and especially if they're on antacids, they are really low on B12. And that makes a huge difference in your nervous system. Okay, you guys, I made it through all the questions tonight. Awesome. And it's 7:45 here in Texas. So I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much for joining me from all over the world. And I will not be here next week. I'm going out to Vermont to visit my grandson. He's at college and his parents' weekend and grandparents' weekend. So I won't be here with you guys next week, but I'll be back the following week. So you guys have a blessed rest of your night. Bye for now.